Welcome to BRSCC for the very first time. Of course, they are very used to being around Snetterton, as they usually run the classic 2CV 24 hours. And for their very first race under BRSCC, this is the grid and how they line up after qualifying yesterday. So Nick Crispin, defending champion, starts on pole position alongside Ethan Sparrow on the front row of the grid, followed by Simon Clark and Brian Heary come next, from Andrew Bull and Julie Walford in P6. Martin Ryman and George Broadhurst then come next from Sebastian Jones-White and Simon Turner to round out the top 10. Howard Wright and David O'Keefe come next on row 6 from Chris Yates and Glenn Oswim. Shirley Hennessy and Nick Clark come on the 8th row of the grid from Matthew Hollis and Roy Eastwood. And then Chris Hall and Sam Archer round out a very solid 20-car entry for the first race of the season. Now, classic 2CVs, they are, as you see here, of course, a very classic, iconic car in motoring history all around. People who know the 2CVs know, of course, they have a regular 2CV 24 hours that happens. And, of course, looking back at the history, the 2CV Racing Club was formed basically back around 1988, looking at the history, and it was where a handful of motorsport-loving 2CV drivers went to see the Belgian 24-hour race course for 2CVs at Spa-Francorchamps. So this has existed quite long before when 2CVs were racing for a while. I've also seen them racing like a one-make off-road one, or in some sort of boggy swamp land, which is quite fun to see, given that they are quite good on suspension. But they're keen to they came back amazed and keen to start racing in the UK. I'm quoting directly from the 2CVRacing.org.uk website. So the 2CV Racing Club was formed, and using modified regulations from 2CV Cross, which must be the 2CV Rallycross regulations, I imagine. They've got a 4-race championship. If I put 3 fingers up, 4-race championship were up and running in 1989. And the first race got 22 cars at Mallory Park, which is excellent to see. And the first winner was former club chairman Royce Gray. And since then, it's continued on. And racing today means you can find it very much alive and cooking as it shows here. But the basic principles are still clear to see. Close and fair racing, lots of pack racing, of course. And in 1990, they ran the very first 24-hour race, which I think was featured on Top Gear back in the day in 1990. People like David Kennedy were involved in that, who's a great Irish driver in the mix as well. And the only thing I can describe these cars in this series is it's charming in the best possible way. They're fantastic cars. They're a great long-standing club, a great bunch of people. I've been involved in the 2CV 24 hours a couple of times previously before. It's a wonderful paddock full of great drivers. Lots of history here, lots of long-standing drivers. And to have them now pass the BRSCC package, another brilliant signing. So as we say, welcome to the club and welcome to the BRSCC for their first ever meeting with the club and that side. And hopefully they can give us a show to show us exactly why they came across and why they're past the portfolio now.
Indeed, yeah. Big welcome to BRSCC. Hopefully they treat us to a cracking first race of the weekend. Of course, you look at them, you probably wouldn't immediately think race car, would you? But they do make the most amazing race cars, and the battles that you get, as we've seen across so many different classes already this weekend, the slipstreaming here at Snetterton is serious, and that's why they have the 24 hours here. Of course, the year will be capped off later in August with said 24-hour race. But I love that across the season they have a mix between sprint racing and endurance racing as well. There's very few championships where you get that kind of mix. It of course takes a very different driving style to win in a sprint versus an enduro, so it really puts the drivers to a test here to get good results consistently across the whole season and put together a championship. You've got to be a very impressive driver across both types of racing to do just that. But let's see who can get the first spoils here from race number 1 of the year.
And of course, now you think about it, there's also an entire ecosystem of Citroën cars that exist within racing and BRSCC, because you now have the 2CVs, which kind of started it all. You have technically, in some cases, I say technically, very loosely, the spirited successor to this championship, which is, or the modern day equivalent, which is the C1 Endurance Series. And of course, you have also the City Car Cup on top of that. And of course, don't forget, of course, last year got introduced the Citroën DS, the Silverlet DS3 Cup on top of it as well. So you have the 2CV, the C1, and the DS3 all involved on BRSCC circles. So kind of a bit of a hub for Citroën racing or DS racing as a whole, which is good for BRSCC. But these cars are quite colourful. As you say, quite a lot can be done to the engine of these cars. You have to, the crank has to remain the same. Camshaft can be a Club 1 available from Kent Cams. They can replace the pistons with 9.1 9-to-1 ratio cars as parts as well. You can pick up the cars that even at MOT phase with as little as £500 or so on eBay or Gumtree or other online sites where you can buy cars on auction. You might have to do some welding for some of these cars because they are quite old. But Nick Crispin, looking at the championship, it was last year's champion by almost about 70-odd, 80-odd points, which is pretty impressive. He wants to start the season with the brand new club in the best possible fashion. So he starts, of course, in the best possible way from pole position on the left-hand side in blue and fluorescent red. So for the first time, welcome to the club, the 2CV Racing Club for 2026, the first race of the season under the BRSCC, all set to go. The red lights are on for the first time in its history with the BRSCC. We are classic 2CV racing. Excellent start from Crispin, gets a good jump, also a good start as well from the third or fourth row from Andrew Bull in bright blue. One car that hasn't quite got away is 55, which is Judy Walford. Her car struggling from the line, but down towards turn 1 for the first time. It is going to be Nick Crispin in car number 1, the defending champion, who will turn in through Ritchie's for the first time. It is then Sparrow in second place. They're going to pack through, and even just through Ritchie's corner. Look at the spectacle, it's side by side through Ritchie's. Just through one corner, and I'm sold already. It's brilliant to see. Down towards Wilson Hairpin, and it's going to be, I think, still Crispin in the lead. Going down the outside goes the fast starting 76 of Andrew Bull. He goes wheel to wheel with Ethan Sparrow, and there's a little bit of contact between the two cars behind. I think that might have been Simon Clark and Brian Heaney going into each other. The ECAS car number 33 trying to pick up 3 or 4 places. That's a very fast moving Glenn Oswin, who's picked up several spots in the opening couple of corners. But through a left-hander. Also, that as I said, is Brian Heary in blue and green. And just behind him there is the kind of gold and blue machine just behind. That must be of Simon Clark in number 18. And I was told by Rob Lewis to expect kind of like City Car Cup racing, just almost like a classic version. And already we're getting that here, because there's going to be plenty of NASCAR-style bump drafting, particularly down the straights, in towards Agostini Hairpin. And you'd think, being 2 CV cars, they would lean on their suspension. But looking at the information we've got on the cars here in terms of suspension, if I find the information on what they've got here for suspension, it's normally lowered by a considerable amount. The approximate ride height for these cars is about 170, 175 on the front and slightly higher on the rear for a bit of rake. And they have standard springs that are uprated, and the racing springs are about 2,500 to 4,000 pounds. They're stiffer springs, and they're replaced by off-the-shelf Gaz or Avo units for the dampers. But you can run adjustable dampers with thicker oil, or non-adjustable ones with thicker oil if you want to. So these cars don't exactly lean like a typical 2CV would. They're quite firm and flat, and because of that, they corner quite well, quite surprisingly well. And even look at this, already through Williams, they're already 2x2 on the opening lap of the race, giving us entertainment literally 2 minutes into life with BRSCC racing here. Fantastic. Almost 3x3 down the back straight. Bring this on. This is brilliant.
Fantastic, isn't it? I mean, we expected to see that, didn't we? With 3 of them absolutely bump drafting there down the Bentley straight. Classic 2CV racing at its best. And we've seen how much that slipstream has assisted our leading batter. It looked as though your reigning champion, Nick Crispin, had just broken away there in the opening parts of the first lap. But nope, he's been reeled straight back in then by Ethan Sparrow. And we continue on. Those drivers that were going 3 abreast in a straight line are now going 3 abreast side by side through corner exit. We will make it through the bomb hole. The 97 will just have to drop back in. That's David O'Keefe on the outside line there. Now to be careful through Coram though. I can imagine we can make it at least 2 if not 3 abreast through Coram, and let's see how they continue to reshuffle themselves. So as you mentioned earlier on, Glenn Oswin, what a beautiful first lap of the race for him, making some lovely moves, slingshotting his way round the outside at Wilson. I would imagine he's going to be one of our biggest movers here on that number 1, but we will see as they bring us to the end of it then. 20 minutes on the clock for the 2 CVs here. The top 2 come past our window, and sadly the driver who struggled to get away from the line is not making it any further. Judy Wolford there pulling over to the side. Yeah,
sadly not a great start for her season. One car I need to point out as well, because it has probably one of the best team names ever, purely for just what it is the number, I think it's number 40 car, which is, where's it gone for? It was Trish Yates. Oh, that's 18 off the road. That was getting sideways there. That was the Simon Clark number 18 car that started in 3rd position off the exit of Ritchie. I didn't quite catch exactly how that started, because I was too busy looking at the entries to find out what number that Chris Yates was, but number 40 I should mention, because it has one of the best names I've seen in this championship and in club racing. It's simply quite called Blueberry Muffins. Yes, they do provide Blueberry Muffins, because they have done that once or twice at Anglesey before. I remember that ages ago when they were doing the 2 CVs back in the early days of my commentary career, back in 2015, 16, I think it was, no, earlier than that in fact, up at Anglesey in the wet. I remember that.
Do they make Blueberry Muffins, or they just really like Blueberry Muffins?
I'm guessing both. or they provide Blueberry Muffins probably by buying a load from, I'm guessing, Costco or someplace like that. Or someplace that sells a lot of Blueberry Muffins in one place, like a bakery. I'm getting hungry. Anyway, before I get too hungry, let's move on back to more pressing matters, which is racing here. And there's the Liquid Wine number 42 car that's in the field. That is Howard Wright, the 2CV Parts.com sponsored car. I was also mentioning here is that in terms of information on the cars, is that I love the fact on the brakes it says here, and I quote, the standard 2CV braking system is usually good enough for racing. Considering they're about 70 years old. Interesting, but impressive. I'll take their word for it. It says some teams use uprated disc pads, and it is permitted to fit heat sinks to the calipers to aid cooling. So I'm just giving you a bit of a rundown of some of the specs here of some of the things they can do to a 2CV. It looks like you can do more than you think to make it a proper race car. And again, you might look at it and think 2CVs, are they pretty much race cars? But you look at the shape of them, they are pretty, to be fair, not a bad drag coefficient on these cars. They're pretty slippery, and they've got quite a sloping back end, which is like a ducktail or a dovetail back end on them. So they are quite aerodynamic, more than you may think, which is quite interesting to see. Now, top 2 are trying to break away here, because Ethan Sparrow has got onto the tail of Nick Crispin, Also, Simon Clark is being chased by Andrew Bull. In fact, I think it's been a change. I think Andrew Bull's gone to third place. He's passed Simon Clark now, so that's up into third has gone the teal-coloured number 92. Diving up the inside there, that was for 7th position. Goes the orange 2CV. Try and look at the number if it comes past the pit. It is number 41, which is Martin Ryman. And also in there too was the fast-starting Glenn Oswin, who was up the inside to try and make a move on possibly the 13 of Sebastian Jones-White, who was in there too as well. Sebastian Jones-White, actually, if I'm right, if we go back to the points table, I believe up to it, he was second in the points last year. Yes, he was. He beat back down in, at the moment, in the order, 7th place. So this man's second in the championship, back by about some 70, 80 points. Not quite as high as he wants to be, but trying to battle his way through. And now you can see there, that's the fast starting number 33, battling with the 21. And that is also Nick Clark has come up the order quite well, as Nick Clark started back in, what was that, 16th place up to 10th place in the top 10 after just 2 laps.
Yeah, as you were mentioning there with Jones-White, surprising to have second in the championship, starting down on 9th on the grid. It's not been the ideal start to the season for him, battling well throughout this one, now makes his way up into P6 as we continue to see drivers squabbling down through into riches once again. We were speaking about liveries all through yesterday. Well, there's some lovely liveries here in the 2CVs, aren't there? Very bright and colourful, which is lovely to see across a grid. And to your delight, Scott, as well, some purple ones too.
Yes, ECAS is a affiliate. But I am a bit of a soft spot for purple-coloured race cars. One of my favourites has been the Simtech from 1994. Even though there's some tragedy ties to that with Roland Ratzenberg, it's my favourite-looking cars of the 90s, just because of the fact it's purple. And I think we do need more purple race cars. Another of my favourite mine, if you can technically call it purple, is the Raybrig liveries on the NSXs in Super GT and JGTC, if you can count that. It was either purpley blue or, I'm not going to get into debates. If Chris Dawes was here, I'd make him laugh by telling what kind of blue it was. But that's a story for it's the years ago back in 2014, which if he's listening, if I made him corpse, if he happens to be watching, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, 3 wide for the position. That's up the inside goes the number 42, the Liquid Molly card, Howard Wright, going past both the 41 of Martin Ryman and also the 33 ECAS car as well. So that was both Ryman and Oswin that were passed, and Oswin goes back up the inside of Ryman, and Martin then just exits stage left off the road. So he thinks, I want no part of this. He either had a problem or decides he's run out of road and continues on. And I think he's just run out of road and ran wide. He's continued on, but with an issue. But he simply just thought, he doesn't want to go wheel to wheel with Glenn Oswin. Thought, right, no, you have the corner. I'm going off this way, and I'll come back on the circuit when it's much safer. Speaking of much safer, not quite here, because there's all going at once trying to be put into position. And all I'm saying for Simon Turner, don't look behind you. You've got about 7 2CV snapping at your heels, trying to pick up what should be. Where's he at the moment? Simon Turner was in about 11th or 12th place. So he's got them battling for the second half of that kind of group of cars in the 20 that started the race. As we look back to our race leaders, still Crispin, the defending champion, from Sparrow leading the way. They've got a 2-second gap. And then right behind them, here comes the cavalry, because all of them go around the outside of everybody. That's 97 trying to make a move. That is David O'Keefe leading on the red and grey machine of 81. They're still leading each other. Literally, they're touching front wings in towards the bomb hole for what will be the 3rd time of asking. On the tail now, almost going wheel to wheel, a 79.33. That is going to be 79 being Sam Archer from the back of the grid. So Sam Archer has come up into the top 10 from starting back in 20th. I have to say, the decision to sign Classic 2CVs to BRSCC, all involved in that one, good decision, because right now, from literally only 3 laps in, what a sign they were for the club. This is fantastic. This
is brilliant, isn't it? Amazing racing, but it just showed as well, because Jones-White, as we mentioned, second in the championship last year, got ahead of this battle for 7th place backwards and cleared off by 3 seconds in 1 lap. That just shows how much the slipstream helps things, and also the hitting your usual lines and carrying the momentum that you should through the corners can gain you so much time in this. Whilst these drivers continue on battling side by side, it's just losing them heaps of time to the groups ahead. But hey, I'm not complaining. The racing in it is awesome, and you can see how quickly you can gain a few positions, but also lose them as well. The 33 there of Oswin dropping back into 13th now. At one point, only about half a lap or so ago, was at the front of this train, up in 7th or 8th place. It can quickly change. We'll be straight back up the inside there, gaining 1, maybe even 2 positions there down at Wilson. Lovely move from the 33, and Glenn Oswin moves his way back ahead a few positions in that big squabble from 7th place backwards. Well, here are your 2 leaders. We have a little look back to them then. At least to the eye, it seems as though Bull and Heary in 3rd and 4th are closing in on your 2 leaders. Well, I say that, I'll eat those words, because on the last lap, all 4 of them nearly doing identical times, but it was Crispin in the lead, the fastest of the 4 of them by a few hundredths of a second. New fastest lap of the race, a 2:49.4. for Crispin, and your championship victor from 2025, starting off the season as he means to go on. Issue for him, though, he doesn't have quite a sizable gap at the front, does he? Only a couple of tenths, and Ethan Sparrow just waiting in the wings, biding his time, waiting to see where he can maybe go for that move on Nick Crispin later on in the race, because as we've seen amongst lots of the disciplines racing here today at Snetterton, it's often a big game of chess, as that's a bit of a slidey moment there for the 21 on corner exit. Going for a slide all the way to the exit, there was Nick Clark. I think he's lost a position because of all of that as well, sadly for Nick. But yeah, as I was saying, continuing to press on through this race then, a big game of chess to the finish here between Crispin and Sparrow. If they start battling with a couple of laps to go, even a couple of minutes to go, it's only 2 or 3 seconds then back to Bull and Heary in 3rd and 4th. And hopefully those two coming to a bit of a truce here, as there's still a potential for a race win on the cards if Crispin and Sparrow start to battle later on, as teammates continuing side by side there. We've got 3 very similar liveried cars there. As apologies, not teammates. The teammate is behind, as again they smashed. I almost said side pods there. There's no side pods in this one as we go 3 wide into bomb hole. The 79 almost threading the needle there up the inside. And that was Archer, I think. Yeah, Sam Archer getting involved. So the driver you mentioned earlier on from the back of the grid, looking to make up more positions is Archer now as they head through the right-hander down through Coram.
Yeah, almost 3 abreast again through Coram. You should never really do that. But the 2 Lion teammates trying to go wheel to wheel with the 81, as you mentioned, of Simon Turner. Fantastic battle going on here, and Simon Turner doesn't quite get the drive for the corner he wants. That's both of the Lion team cars squeeze past into position. And they come across the line, almost pulling away quite well here with a bit of a gap has gone. The 18 of Simon Clark in blue and gold. So Crispin leads the way. Oh, off the road and out of the race, sadly. He's on 21. That is 21 being Nick Clark, who started 16th and was running at one point about 14th and 15th, but he's now slipped down the order just outside the top 10. But unfortunately, his race has come to a premature end. And we'll see if he can come back in race number 2 later on. Leaders now onto the 5th lap of what is currently a 20-minute race. So plenty of track time for the 2 CVs. The 2 Lion teammates, I think it might be the either Lion or Sea Lion teammates, one of the 2. I'm trying to figure out their name. I remember there being a Team Sea Lion before, but these are possibly just Team Lion, plus they've changed it from one to the other. I think Ratter's going to have a quick look across to see if there was a team name on those ones. Yeah, just Lion. There was a Team Sea Lion before, but they've been called Lion now. Just taking the sea bit off, so they're staying on land rather than sea. I'll stop rambling and carry on with the commentary. Leaders go through, or leading cars go through into Agostini once again. The 2 teammates go nose to tail. 97 ahead of 79. And 97, 79, that's O'Keefe ahead of Archer. Turner back in the way. This is now for the final spots on the top 10. All 3 of them are now starting to catch the 42, which is Howard Wright, the Liquid Moly sponsored car. Nick Crispin, though, with a bit of a wayward exit through the right-hander at Williams. This now puts Ethan Sparrow in grey with the yellow fluorescent stripe on the side, right onto his rear bumper, not that there really is one, but onto his rear tail, down the back straight. But again, in typical 2CV fashion, they're both just tandeming, drafting each other down the back straight to pull away even further. The gap they had across the line was about 3.5 seconds over the 3rd place battle between Bull and Heary. Bull with the sort of cyan-coloured machine in number 8076, and Heary's car being green and blue in the background as they come out of the Randall Nelson. There goes the fight for 3rd place. Battle for 5th is in the background somewhere as we move across, and yellow flags are being out, so something happened possibly for 3rd. Something's happened for yellow flag somewhere, because yellow flag has been called and the light panels are off as well. It might be for the 21 that's gone off the road. Yeah, I just remembered that. I saw it at the corner of my eye and I was thinking, it might be a car that's gone off the road, and I remembered instantly the 21 was off there too, so no overtaking in that complex. Here comes the fight that's going on. In fact, the Liquid Moly cars dropped behind both the Team Lion cars, so both 79 and 97 have got through. That's both O'Keefe and Archer have gone through. Yes, O'Keefe and Archer. Sam Archer, of course, is doing a fantastic drive. Starts at the back of the grid. He's up into the top 10, battling with his teammates. So good effort from both the Lion cars to move forwards. The leaders have gone past the pits with 5.5 minutes to go and change. And lapping pretty similarly. In fact, Bull's lap time was a 2:51.2. So they're lapping, in fact, about a second quicker than the battle behind for 3rd place. And that's the pace they've got. And I spoke too soon for Sam Archer. What do you call that? Curse the commentator, because I thought he was doing well in the top 10 from the back of the grid, but Sam Archer's car now cruising into the pit lane, so unfortunately his race, I'm afraid, John, is rather prematurely at an end with 5 and a bit minutes to go.
To be fair, we've gone pretty far through this weekend without our first commentator's curse, so we've
Yes,
done
we
well
have.
there, but a shame there for Sam Archer from the back all the way through up to P9, but Carr decides it doesn't want to go on any further, and sadly, the rear gunner now for O'Keefe, those two teammates for Team Lion were working together very nicely. Sadly, he's lost his rear gunner now, and he'll drop back into battling with some other drivers, and that battle will immediately kick off. Thinking about the inside line there, late under brakes there for Wright. They're in 9th place, and he looks to move back through into 8th. That's exactly what he's going to do in the Liquid Molly car, but he gives the room on the exit, which is lovely to see, but that allows for O'Keefe to pull back alongside, inside line, then as they'll head through Palmer. Through the left-hander they go, back to the inside line goes the 97, and back into 8th place he goes as well. Well, as we saw, it's all big over the curve there to the exit, as now we look ahead, the 18 now battling as we drop back into that squabble we were looking at earlier on as well. Again, similarly to we've seen across the Caterhams, the Mazdas, the Fiestas, all sorts, it doesn't matter where you look here in 2CBs, there's battles going on, which is great to see as well. No matter where you are in the order, you're getting a squabble with someone, which is awesome to see. This is the 18 and the 13, so Clark and Jones-White battling here. Jones-White's now dropped behind Clark, so I think potentially now down into P7 for your championship runner-up in 2025. So I think Broadhurst are into 5th then, Clark into 6th, and Jones-White down into 7th place. You might be wondering, we saw the two leaders there on the previous lap. Crispin got all sorts of sideways out through Williams, and you might have thought, well, why did Ethan Sparrow not go for the move? It was too early. We still had over 6 minutes on the clock. A move like that simply would have caused a re-overtake further down the line. It would have lost them time, and they know that Bull and Heary, these two just behind, aren't too far off of your race leaders. Okay, they've been dropping back lap on lap. They're just not quite as quick consistently as the two ahead, but the two ahead know that earlier they break out from formation and do battle, the more likely that Bull and Heary will close in. It's classic kart racing really here in the 2CBs. All those tactics going on through to the checkered flag, but awesome to have the 2CBs out. Brilliant to have them on the BRSCC package, and here they come then round the last couple of corners to start a new lap of this race. They're doing 2-minute 50-second lap times. It's going to be close here as to whether it's 1 or 2 more laps. Here come the leaders under the gantry, almost bang on schedule.
That'll be close again, like it was in the Caterham, whether they get one more lap or not. It was a 2:49.5, and the time across the line was 17 minutes and 9.45 seconds. So that might well be checkered flag right on the money, or they might well give them one more. But we'll wait and see if the board does come out or not. We'll keep an eye. There's nothing out just yet, so they haven't put a last lap board out, so they might be giving them possibly one more, which might mean, in that case, might mean they'll allow them to have one more lap, which actually, given the fact that they get 20 minutes of racing plus possibly an extra cheeky lap to go with it, for a first race, not bad treatment for them, which is pretty good. So leaders come out of the Wilson Hair for the second to last time, we presume. It was side by side between the Soul Rain Lion car, which is going David O'Keefe in 97, and it was Howard Wright in the 42 in the Liquid Molly sponsored car. That was the battle that was going on for 8th and 9th position. The gap between them across the line was 0.167, so very close as they came across together. Fastest lap of the race is held by Nick Crispin, which is interesting. Clear A he's done that, 2:49.432. We're given that the toe is quite strong between these cars, but they've all everyone's kind of paired off into their own little individual battles here as Sparrow keeps up the pressure. I'd imagine he's biding his time here in this one, John, because as you said, you can pull out and try and make a move at some point, but of course they're trying to get enough of a gap so that if something does happen, they do start battling, they don't actually lose too much time to the cars behind. They've got an advantage now of some 5.5 seconds. These 6 seconds out in front is the gap between Andrew Bull in 3rd place and the leader Nick Crispin with Ethan Sparrow on his tail. Through goes Clark. Jones-White in 6th position now. He's lost a couple of spots. So Clark is up into the top 5. Considering he started in 3rd, he's back into a couple more places after he lost them, after he had that moment exiting Ritchie's earlier on in the race. And as for Crispin, he's still putting under big pressure here from the 46 of Sparrow, and I wonder if he's just, again, biding his time, thinking, when do I make the move? If we do get one more lap, he stayed there all the time, put the pressure on, and try to force a mistake. But of course, at the same time, Nick Crispin isn't defending champion for no reason. He's, of course, got the number 1 because he's that good in a 2CV. He's proving it once again here with Sparrow right on his tail. Just maybe check and see where Sparrow ended up in the points last year. If he was racing, I presume he was racing last year. 4th in the points. Andrew Bull was 3rd. So 3rd place man in points now with 3rd. But Ethan Sparrow, who finished about 140 odd points off Nick Crispin in the end, doing quite well to make a bid here to maybe his main challenger for 2026, if he can keep this pace up for the rest of the weekend and the rest of the season.
Indeed, it's been an impressive first race to say the least for both the two at the sharp end. But again, this continued working together between Andrew Bull and Brian Heary, not quite working out well enough here to scamper back up to the top 2, but surely this time around it'll be the last lap board out on the gantry. And drivers will be heading round for one more lap here of Snetterton, and surely the gloves have got to come off now between Nick Crispin and Ethan Sparrow. They use the slipstream once again up the start, finish straight. I'm just watching for our fantastic Orange Army to see what goes out here on the gantry. I still didn't see a last lap board, I can't lie, but maybe it's getting put out somewhere where we can't quite see from our commentary box. Either way, timer has certainly hit 0 there as they cross the line, and we crack on then for the final lap of this first race of the year here in the Classic 2CV Racing Championship. Can Nick Crispin hold on here across the final lap? Well, he doesn't feel the need to defend, and maybe he should have here. Looking at the inside line is Sparrow. He's got the nose ahead. He'll squeeze the number 1 to the exit, but just about gives enough room for them to continue running side by side. Now as we head down through to Palmer, again, just enough room given. Lovely racing here between the two at the sharp end here in the 2CVs. But the outside line then becomes the inside line for Palmer, and back through goes Crispin. Well, good to see then. Plenty of working together throughout the race between these two, but gloves are off here on the final lap. Nice exit from Palmer for Ethan Sparrow. He'll now have the inside line for Agostini. We've seen across the different racing championships here today, inside or outside can both work here at Agostini, but Crispin's going for the up and under. We've not seen that one work out. Will it work out for him? No. Sparrow chops across, and Sparrow genuinely has the race lead here, but you've got to remember, we've still got the Bentley Straight coming up, Scott, haven't we? So it's going to be Slipstream City between these two as always.
And Crispin surely will have one final bullet in the chamber if he's got a chance to do so. Sparrow with a big sideways moment heading through Oggies. That sees him run wide, and through goes instantly up the inside line goes Nick Crispin. He was going to take that all day long, whether it was pressure or just missing his braking point and running wide. The evidence is clear. Sparrow went way too deep on the exit of the corner, ran across the onto the grass on the edge, kicked up the dirt, and through back goes Crispin. So all that hard work chasing for the entire race undone in one mistake in one corner.
Yeah, one little mistake and it all goes wrong then. We didn't even need to wait for the Bentley Straight there for Crispin to fire his way back through. Sparrow just a little bit wide, kicks up the dust, and back through goes your defending champion into the lead of the race. Well, we maybe turn our attention now to the battle for third place as well. We've still got Brian Heary hounding the rear end of Andrew Bull, but can he find a way through here on the final lap? Let's wait and see as they come through into your camera shot. There are the leading two continuing to press on. Sparrow doing his best to re-chase down Crispin, but I'm not quite sure it's going to be enough here. No massive overtaking zones here in the final sector at Snetterton, and these two just enough of a breakaway here for the 76 of Andrew Bull. Again, looking as though he's done just enough as well. Well, through Coram we go then for the final time here in this first race of the season for the Classic 2CV Championship, and I think Nick Crispin has done enough here. Out the final corner they go. Just that little mistake from Ethan Sparrow means he can't grab the win at the first race of the year, but it will be your defending champion then. Welcome to the BRSCC 2CVs. What a race we've been treated to there for the first race of the weekend, and your defending champion takes the number 1 spot, and he's very happy about that one. Celebrates out the window, and as he should then. Nick Crispin wins from Ethan Sparrow in second, and Andrew Bull does hold on just ahead then of Brian Heary. Those four, your top 4 there in the 2CVs, and thankfully they're not all said and done because we will be seeing them out later on this afternoon. They are scheduled to be out at about 3:45 p.m. today, ladies and gentlemen, so make sure you mark your diaries and don't miss that one. Drivers continuing on then across the line as we bring this one to a close. And as we mentioned earlier on in that race, battles throughout the order as well, which is lovely to see. Again, 2CVs, as we mentioned, not particularly aerodynamic, so it means we split off into big battle packs like this one, and still a group of 5 squabbling all the way to the line there, and this will be the battle for about 12th or 13th place, I think it is. Battles throughout the order, a really exciting race there, and the first one for the 2CVs there. As I say, welcome to BRSCC.
Again, as we say in France, bienvenue dans le club. As we say, excellent stuff from them so far. All 20, well, almost all 20, 18 of the 20 cars home, and what a way to announce themselves as part of the club. So excellent job all round for them. A pleasure to have already in the paddock. I'm sure the second race will be just as entertaining as the first one. So Nick Crispin picking up where he left off from last year. Car number 1 started from P1. Takes P1 for just about leads every single lap, apart from a little bit of a last lap, and goes on and takes P1. So all the ones around for Nick Crispin in the end. The champion once again kicking off his title defence in the perfect fashion from pole position, and he even took the fastest lap of the race as well, only just with a 2:49.432. In actual fact, the top 3 all set 2:49.4s. In fact, separated back roughly half a tenth or so. Impressive stuff in terms of pace. So Nick Crispin is the winner of the first Classic 2CV Racing Championship race under the BRSCC ahead of Ethan Ethan Sparrow and Andrew Bull on the podium. Brian Healy comes next in 4th from Simon Clark. Sebastian Jones-White, the runner-up from last year in the championship, finishes 6th from George Broadhurst. Howard Wright, David O'Keefe and Simon Turner. And Glenn Oswin and Chris Yates, followed by Martin Ryman, Chris Hall, Oliver Grantham, Roy Eastwood, Matthew Hollis and Shirley Hennessy. And we sadly lost Sam Archer to the pits. Nick Clark pulled off the road with mechanical issues. Julie Walford was out on the first lap after she had mechanical issues trying to get off the line and pulled off at Agostini hairpin as well.